Welcome everybody to the playoff reveal for season 9. That's right. You know what time it is. We got the suit on, which means it's playoff time. And that's right, we got the ring. You guys are new to the league or just watching. We are the CSFL and we are the Canadian Simulation Football League, and we hand out rings for our championship winners. And I actually have season 9's championship ring right here. That's right, boys. Take a look at that glimmer. That's what you're fighting for. All right, now with no further delay, let's get into who made it in season 9. We got the number 1 seed versus the 8th seed. Few people probably have already guessed this. This is also a rematch in season 7. We got the Demons versus the Bears. The Demons 12-3. They are the number 1 seed, and they've had a phenomenal season. Most wins ever by a franchise in a season with 12. Are going against the 7-8 Miracle team in the Bears that just squeezed in and beat the Monsters and Gators for that final 8th spot. Take a look at the rankings there. We got the number 3 offense in the Demons versus the number 3 defense in the Bears. But there's a number 1 on that board for both teams. Number 1 for the Bears is their pass defense, and number 1 in turnover differential is the Demons. They don't turn it over on offense, and they don't have giveaways, should I say, and they have lots of takeaways. They're on a 5-game winning streak. Bears are on a 2-game winning streak. These two teams, the Demons actually are 4-3 versus the Bears all time, including season 9's regular season when they played in week 13, and the Demons beat them at home 24-13. So the Bears lost this game, and just a few more weeks later have to go right back to the same stadium. Season 7 quarterfinals, the Demons were the 2nd seed, and the Bears were the 7th seed. And they met in the first round, and the Bears gave the Demons their only playoff loss in franchise history. We'll take a quick look at the star players for these two teams. Eric Bell, first in quarterback rating and first for percentage, completion percentage. Also, when you see the 15th most, that means I should have put the 15th least, I guess. I typed that wrong. Basically, there's 14 other people that threw more touchdowns out of 16 teams. So that's really low. Second lowest, I believe, out of starting quarterbacks that started more than 10 games. Then we got Jimmy Capps, the rookie quarterback who only played 11 games. His quarterback rating of 108 and 21 touchdowns and 60% completion rating, and actually has the 2nd most interceptions. Only one other quarterback has more interceptions. I believe that was Genie Ingram. Then you take a look at these 2 star running backs here, right on your screen, right here and here. Mike Davis, playing really good for the Bears and is really keeping this offense going. He is the blood and soul of this franchise for sure. And you can't say enough good things about Mike Davis. Mike Davis, he's got a lot of 7s up there, 16 touchdowns, 1,400 yards, 80 broken tackles in 15 games. He started all 15. Is a great season, nothing to blink an eye at. But Derek Crowder is a big reason. Obviously, Eric Bell and C.J. Holiday, they got lots of weapons. But Derek Crowder has really been playing at the top of his game, and in my opinion, is a top 2, top 3 running back in Season 9. Derek Crowder, 4th for yards on the ground with 1,800 yards, which is crazy. That's a lot of running yards. I don't know, break it down, do the math. 15 games divided by 1,800. 15 touchdowns, so he's got 1 per game. 6.8 yards per carry, which was 4th best out of running backs that had more than 100 attempts. And he also was 3rd for broken tackles with 98. That's a lot of broken tackles. Derek Crowder's really, really good, obviously. Then we got the 2 star wide receivers, Sean Vincent and C.J. Holiday. C.J. Holiday, 5th for yards, 5th for touchdowns, 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, and averaging 23 yards a catch for any receiver that was over 30 catches. Sean Vincent, his numbers aren't as great, but he has 9 touchdowns, 1,100 yards, and 63 catches, which is 9th best out of all the receivers. Sean Vincent has been their go-to guy and their clutch guy on 3rd down, even though Blaine Strickland had a heck of a game last week just to get them in the playoffs versus the Blue Jays at the last second. So he's no slouch either. Then we take a look at their 2 defensive stars. We only picked 1 per team. And middle linebacker Trent Cannon, who's up for Defensive Player of the Year, is on the Demons middle linebacker. I believe they got him playing on the outside, and he's got 9 sacks, which is 1st in the league and a record. No one's ever had 9. The record was 8, and Trent Cannon breaks the record. And also, Trent Cannon broke the record in Week 14 because he did not get a sack in his last game, so he could have even got more. Santonio Robinson is 1st in the league for pass deflections. He also got an interception, 41 tackles, which is a bunch for a corner for sure, and 1 defensive touchdown. But those pass deflections have been crazy as Santonio Robinson has been swatting the ball like crazy. All right. And with that breakdown, we're going to take a look at the next matchup. Okay. So this next matchup is the 2nd seed versus the 7th seed. And this is also a playoff rematch, as these 2 teams have already met in the playoffs. And not just in the playoffs, they met in the championship game, and they also met in Season 7 in the quarterfinals. So these are 2 rematches of the Season 7 year. The Demons and Bears and Vipers versus the Cobras. And that's what it is. Vipers versus the Cobras in the Snake Bowl, as in Season 5, these 2 teams played in the championship game. The Cobras were 8-5, and the Cobras were the 5th seed, and they were 8-5, and then the Vipers were 7-5, and they were the 7th seed. Vipers won on the road 20-13 in the Season 5 championship game, and then just back in Season 7 in the quarterfinals, these 2 met in the first round in one of the greatest playoff games we've ever seen, when the number 1 11-2 Vipers were playing the 8-9 or the 7-6, sorry, the 8th seed Cobras, and the Cobras won big. The Cobras scored 5 rushing touchdowns on the ground with James Tompkins, and the Cobras won 42-23 in arguably one of the greatest playoff games ever. And now these 2 face each other again once in the quarterfinals. Here, I'll get out of the way so you guys can see the rankings here. The Cobras are 2nd in the league for points per game, and that is definitely hard to believe, but Bradley McNamara, the quarterback that brought them to the playoffs last season, and the quarterback that played for the Bears and beat the Demons last time the those two teams played, Bradley McNamara finds his way back on another team with the Cobras and back in the playoffs. The Cobras are not intimidated by the Vipers. I think that a lot of teams might be, but the Cobras are ready for this game as they are 1-1 in the playoffs, and they stole a championship game from the Vipers and they took it out on them in the season 7 quarterfinals. But now 1-1, they are actually, the Vipers are 5-4. So it's pretty even in the regular season, 5-4. But the Vipers actually lost this season to the Cobras in Week 9. The Cobras beat them 30-24, and the Vipers lost when they were on the road. But this time, the Cobras go to the Vipers Stadium, and it's going to be a good one. I'm really excited about this game. I think this may be one of those classic matchups. The Vipers are on a 5-game winning streak. They have the 5th best ranked offense, and they have the number 1 ranked rushing defense, which is really going to come into play here. So let's take a little closer look at their star players here. Corey Moore and Bradley McNamara are the 2 star quarterbacks for these two teams, but the Cobras have 2 quarterbacks. Bradley McNamara started 8 games, and John Jordan started 7 games. Bradley McNamara has been the quarterback for the last few games, but we don't know who the Cobras are going to start, as both of these quarterbacks have been playing great. Bradley McNamara, 8 games, 130.9 quarterback rating, which was 7th best, 1,888 yards, 18 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. And that was well, I know it says 14th most, but that means that I should have put 14th least, I guess, because there were 13 more quarterbacks that threw more than Bradley McNamara, but he only started 8 games, and then John Jordan started 7 games, 125 quarterback rating, 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. But he was 3rd in the league for completion percentages, and Bradley McNamara was 16th in the league for completion percentage, and that's really the big difference between those 2 quarterbacks, in my opinion. Corey Moore, the veteran, as neither of these teams, as the Cobras are trying to get their wins in the playoffs, the veteran quarterback Corey Moore for the Vipers, he's been to 4 championship games. He won 1 of them against this team, the Cobras. So Corey Moore definitely gets excited when he sees the Cobras, as it reminds him as Season 5. Corey Moore is no slouch and has really picked it up in the back half of this season, as he has the 3rd most passing yards and also is 3rd for most passing touchdowns with 40. This man can sling it. Only 6 interceptions, so 10 more quarterbacks had more picks out of 16 teams, and 64% completion, which was 4th best on the thing. So 133 quarterback rating, 6th best, 4th best in completion percentage, 3rd best in passing touchdowns and passing yards. Corey Moore is the man in Vipertown. Gary Mason and James Tompkins are the 2 star running backs. You'll see him here and here. James Tompkins, we'll talk about him first, the road team. 4th in the league for 17 touchdowns, which is a lot. 17 touchdowns, 6.6 yards per carry, which is 6th best out of any other running back, and he had 80 broken tackles, which was 7th best. And this is a lot. I know a lot of people may look at those numbers and goes, oh, well, he's not top 3. But any given day, this guy can be a top 3 running back. So it just matters. And also, he did not play when they played in the championship game, and he played the last time they met in the quarterfinals in Season 7. So James Tompkins this is only his second time he's ever going to play the Vipers, and the last time he played the Vipers in the playoffs, he got 5 rushing touchdowns. Can James Tompkins do it again? Gary Mason, he's definitely had an average. He was doing really good in the beginning of the season, but then really averaged out as Corey Moore took over. But Gary Mason is a strong, between the tackles, heavy running back. 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6.2 yards per carry, and 73 broken tackles. And he has much less attempts, a lot less. I don't actually remember what it was, but I remember it was a lot less attempts than James Tompkins. And the broke tackles are very similar. And because Gary Mason, just when he gets his reps, he can bulldoze people, as he's not a scat back or one that's going to take the outsides on toss plays, do them really well, but he does really well between the tackles. Johnny Jones, the other star for the Vipers, he is 11th for yards receiving, 1,200 yards, 20.8 yards a catch, which was 11th best out of all those receivers in the league. That's really good. 14 touchdowns, 7th best. Johnny Jones, 58 catches. He is their star player and their X factor in the receiving corps. They have another receiver who I wanted to put up there as well, Jesse Lincoln, the 6'5" Viper wide receiver. Jesse Lincoln has been playing amazing too, and it's a big reason why Corey Moore right here has 40 touchdowns. Johnny Jones, can he get it done and have a big game against this strong secondary? I'm really looking forward to that matchup between Johnny Jones and Kyle Pounds of the Cobras. Also, if you're still with me from the Demons and Bears game, I forgot to give my favorite matchup of that. And the favorite matchup for the Bears and Demons game, or the Demons and Bears game, is going to be CJ Holiday versus Santonio Robinson. I'm really excited about that matchup, just as much as I'm excited about this Johnny Jones versus Kyle Pounds, which is the star cornerback for the Cobras. And then the star 2 defensive players, we only picked one. Both of them are linebackers. Middle linebacker Josh Cameron, the #1 draft pick, first overall pick for the Vipers. Josh Cameron, 63 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 4 interceptions, which was tied for first in the league with 4 picks and 9 pass deflections and a forced fumble. Josh Cameron, he's just that guy that just, I don't know how the Cobras are going to deal with Josh Cameron. He's a big reason why they have the #1 rushing defense. He's a big reason why they have the #1 defense a lot of the times overall. Josh Cameron is a machine out there, and a tackling machine and a leader out there for the Vipers, and I'm not sure how the Cobras are really going to deal with him. He's going to be a problem. Can they figure out Josh Cameron, either avoid him or put someone on him? The outside linebacker, right outside linebacker, Colin Sherman, they call him the Sherman Tank, 61 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 5 sacks, which is 4th in the league, 3 pass deflections and a forced fumble. Colin Sherman is going to have a huge day versus Gary Mason to help the Cobras get this big upset win against these Vipers. Let's move on to the next game. Excited about these matchups. The next one. These two teams have never met in the playoffs. These two teams have the most, first and second, I believe, or first and third for most playoff wins ever by any franchises. These are 2 veteran teams that have been in the playoffs more than anybody, but have never met. How is that possible? Well, that all ends here in Season 9 as the Rhinos face the Piranhas for the first time in postseason history. These 2 teams are notorious offensive teams. The Piranhas have a brand new head coach in Jay Bomber, who's also their quarterback, first ever head coach player. Also, this will be his 2nd season being the head coach for the Piranhas. He has turned this defense around completely. As the Piranhas have always been known for a great running game and a great offense, and have kind of slacked defensively, you could say. Not this year, as the Piranhas finished the season with the #1 ranked defense overall, third for pass defense and fourth for rushing defense. So we'll see the #1 defense versus the #1 offense in these Rhinos. The Rhinos, 11-4, finished third, and they won 2 championships back to back. If you are living under a rock, or if you're not a part of this league and you're just watching and you don't know this league very well, the Rhinos won in season 7 and season 8, and now here in season 9 are on hosting a home game as the 3rd seed, 11-4, with the #1 offense. And look at that. If you look at the rankings over here, the Rhinos have a lot of #1s. They have the #1 for points per game, #1 total offense, #1 for tied for #1 with the Demons for most turnover differential. Man, these Rhinos are hard to beat, and they are not letting up. These guys are going hard and pushing on the pedal as they are in the pursuit for 3, as they've already got 2 championships and 2 rings, and they're looking for a 3rd. They also have the 2nd ranked defense, which I believe a lot of people overlook as they're focused on their high-powered offensive weapons like Randy Dorsey and Alonzo Atkins, and of course the legend Bryce Locker. But they have a really good defense that no one talks about, or at least doesn't talk about enough, I think, as they have Irv Orlando, who was season 8 defensive MVP of the season, and they also have a lot of names, a lot of star players. Also the Alex Campbell, cornerback, number 26, who is arguably the greatest defensive player ever, as he has most postseason turnovers by any individual. He's also played in a lot of games, but he has the most turnovers. All right, let's take a look at their star players and get right into it. Alonzo Atkins and Jay Bomber. Alonzo Atkins only started in 13 games as he was benched when he played the Piranhas, actually, and the Tigers. The Piranhas, actually, and the Rhinos, their record all-time in the regular season, I didn't say it just because they've never met in the playoffs, and we're in the playoffs, but their regular season record is 4-4-1. They had a tie back in season 2 in one of the greatest overtime games we've ever seen, in the punt fiasco game. But the Rhinos beat the Piranhas in just last week, so we're going to see a back-to-back game in the last week of the regular season. In week 15, the Piranhas faced the Rhinos, and the Rhinos pulled off the ultimate flex as they benched a bunch of their starters, including their quarterback, Alonzo Atkins, and still beat the Piranhas. He put in backups, I believe, because it was the last game of the season, and they were already in the playoffs. But he still beat the Piranhas 17-14 in a very strong defensive game, just showing how strong the Rhinos really are. Jay Bomber has been playing great, but it is the turnovers, as there's only 6 other quarterbacks that have thrown more. But those 8 interceptions, that's not really a lot. 27 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions, but those 8 interceptions came at crucial moments in the games. Quarterback rating at 119.5, 3,000 passing yards, 63 percentage for completion rating, which was 7th best. Jay Bomber definitely can sling the ball, and he's got all the offensive weapons to do it. It's just he hasn't been leaned on as much this season because how great Isaac Cobb, the rookie running back for the Piranhas, has been. And which is no easy task to replace Alonzo Graham and Willie Burnsides for all the veteran owners that know the Piranhas so well. And he's doing a great job at it. And here now is in the playoffs facing the Rhinos in back-to-back weeks. That's a tough one for the Piranhas. Can they get over the hurdle and beat this team in these Rhinos, man? Lonzo Atkins, 133 quarterback rating, 3,500 yards, only 6 interceptions and 63 completion rating, as he's tied with 7th with Jay Ballmer. Lonzo Atkins is an absolute star. He's won 2 championship games. Only 2 quarterbacks have ever won 2 championship games. Jeannie Ingram won it with the Wildcats and Scorpions, and now Lonzo Atkins wins it back-to-back, which has never been done before with the Rhinos, and is considered, with Jeannie Ingram, as the 2 greatest quarterbacks ever in CSFL history. And now it's going back to the playoffs as the 3rd seed. Let's see what Alonzo Atkins does in this game and what it is for his legacy. Bryce Locker, the running back for the Rhinos, is an absolute legend. He broke the rushing yards record in last season, and also set the record for most rushing touchdowns at 25, I believe it was, or 23. And now this season gets 20 touchdowns and is just short of the rushing title, or the rushing, he got the rushing title, sorry, just short of the record of breaking his own record last season. So he now gets 2 rushing titles in a row, which is the only time the Rhinos have ever had a rushing title. They never had it with Mark Marshall, and Bryce Locker now gets the Rhinos 2 rushing titles in 3 seasons, I believe, that he's been starting, which is insane. 20 touchdowns, 2nd most, just got beat by Travis Stovall, as Travis Stovall had 1 touchdown. Got him by 1 touchdown with 21 from the Dragons. And Bryce Locker, he actually did not score in Week 15 against the Piranhas. But he is number 1 for broken tackles with 109 broken tackles in 15 games, which is just bananas. And he is leading the way as the greatest running back ever, and he does not look like he is letting up. Isaac Cobb, the rookie running back, definitely up for nomination for Rookie of the Year, as he brings his team to the playoffs and had an amazing regular season and was very clutch in big moments. 1,300 yards, 17 touchdowns, which was the 4th most, which is a lot. 6.6 yards a carry, which is tied with 6th with James Tompkins, and he's been playing great as well. 68 broken tackles, not as much, and obviously has 109 with Bryce Locker, but still a whole bunch, and is looking really impressive as a rookie running back, and is a big reason why they have the rushing attack that they do. They have a really good rushing attack. What is it again? Now that I'm thinking about it. They're the 4th best rushing attack with Isaac Cobb, and that's really good. All right, we'll take a look at these wide receivers. The 2 wide receiver weapons. I wanted to stay off the screen just so you guys can see them, see the stats. The 2 wide receivers, Chauncey Preston and Randy Dorsey, 2 veteran wide receivers that have been at it for a very long time and have been here since the beginning in Season 1, as both these teams have been here since Season 1. Chauncey Preston, 8th for catches per game, 1,100 yards, 18 yards per catch and 10 touchdowns. Randy Dorsey, who set the record last year, tied the record, or set the record with Dave Rogers. They both set the record at 25 touchdowns receiving last season. Randy Dorsey, 11th in catches, 62, 1,300 yards, 21.1 yards per catch, and 13 touchdowns. And those 2 guys can have a big day any day of the week. Let's see if there's the 2 teams. Is it going to be a running back game Will both these running backs go off, or is it going to be a pass heavy? Either way, it's going to be between these four guys here, these four stars. Then we got one defensive player per team, and we got Irv Orlando, the season 8 defensive MVP. Here now in season 9, bringing his team to the playoffs. He is tied for first for interceptions, 4, with Josh Cameron from the Vipers. He's got 6 pass deflections, 3 forced fumbles, which is the first for forced fumbles in the league. He's got 7 tackles for loss. This guy is just a leader out there, similar to Josh Cameron and a lot of these great middle linebackers in this league. Irv Orlando is the guy, man. He's a big reason why the Rhinos are as good as they are defensively, for sure. He shuts plays down. And then we got another middle linebacker. We've had a lot of them, star defensive players. Jason Smith, 78 tackles, which is the 3rd most out of anyone. So only 2 other linebackers or 2 other defensive players, which are linebackers, have more tackles than him. 8 tackles for a loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, 6 pass deflections, and was also candidate for Defensive Player of the Year in Season 8, but he lost it to Irv Orlando. These are the star players for this matchup. Stay with me, we got one more. Okay. Now these two teams, as you can imagine, you've guessed who these two teams are by now. But these two teams aren't like the Piranhas and Rhinos. They have met in the playoffs, as the Rhinos and Piranhas have not met in the playoffs. But these two teams have. And the last time they met was just last season, in Season 8 in the quarterfinals, and they also played in Season 3 in the quarterfinals. So this will be 3 quarterfinals that they have played each other in, and that is the Wildcats versus the Dragons. The Wildcats versus the Dragons. The Wildcats lost to the Dragons this year, 31-28 when they were on the road, but now host the Dragons as they are 6-3. The Wildcats are 6-3 all time versus the Wildcats in the regular season, as they've been playing since season 1, and the Wildcats have always done really well against the Dragons in the regular season. But now in the playoffs, the Dragons beat them last season in Season 8. The Wildcats were the 4th overall, the 4th seed at 10-5, and the Dragons were the 5th seed at 10-5, and now the Wildcats are the 4th seed and the Dragons are the 5th seed once again in back-to-back seasons, and face each other in back-to-back seasons. The Dragons won, though, on the road last year, 45-38, in a huge shootout between these two teams, and ended up losing to the semifinals. Dragons ended up losing in the semifinals in the next round, but really had a really impressive game against the Wildcats. Back in Season 3, the Wildcats and the Dragons faced each other. The Wildcats were the 3rd seed at 7-4, and the Dragons were the 6-5 6th seed. The Wildcats won that game at home 24-17, so they're 1-1 in the playoffs, and they're meeting back-to-back seasons, both being 4-5. That's pretty incredible. Take a look at their rankings here. What stands out to me right away is the points per game and how similar it is between these two teams. 3rd and 4th for points per game for the Wildcats and Dragons. And then we got the 2 defenses, really, that have really good pass defenses. The Dragons have the 2nd best, which is really good. And the Wildcats have the 6th best, which is still really good. Top 5 almost, just outside of the top 5. Both of them also have really good passing games. The Wildcats are third best with Pat Hall leading the way, and they got Eric Watson, the veteran quarterback, who used to be a Dragon or used to be a Demon, who won in season 3 with the Demons as a season 3 champion. Now finds himself with the Dragons here and gets another crack at it as he brought his team, the Dragons, to the semifinals last season, the veteran, and now here brings them to the playoffs again, back-to-back seasons with the Dragons. The big difference, though, a lot of similarities, but the big difference is I'd say the defense and offense for these two teams. So the defense for the Wildcats is the 10th, and the offense total for the Demons, or for the Dragons, I don't know why I keep saying Demons, for the Dragons is 14th. So let's take a look at their star players in the last matchup of the weekend, or of the quarterfinals, should I say. Pat Hall, looking great. He got offensive MVP in season 8, and now in season 9 brings his team to the big dance here as the 4th seed against the Dragons in back-to-back seasons, as he lost to them last season, in a big shootout. Pat Hall, 143 quarterback rating, which was second best. 4,034 yards, which was second best. 42 touchdowns, which was second best. And only 2 interceptions. And I know it says 18th most, but that just means I typed it wrong. It should be 18th least, where it's basically 17 quarterbacks have thrown more interceptions than Pat Hall. 64% completion rating, which is 4th best as well, really high for that many attempts, as they throw it a lot. Eric Watson, the veteran, 119.1 quarterback rating, 3,600 yards, which was 5th best, 34 touchdowns, which was 6th best, and only 9 interceptions, which was, well, actually 9 is a lot, 5th most. So there's only 4 of the quarterbacks that threw more, which is pretty high, actually. 59% completion rating, 14th. And the veteran Eric Watson, who beat the Wildcats last season, tries to come in here and do it again. Dave Rogers and Todd Kidd. Dave Rogers set the record, or not Dave Rogers, sorry, it's Troy Jackson. Either way, Dave Rogers and Todd Kidd are the two star wide receivers for these two teams. Todd Kidd 7th for receptions with 65, 1,097 yards, 16.8 yards a catch, and 15 touchdowns, which was 5th best, which will definitely get him in the Snow Bowl. And he has been playing great and has great chemistry with Eric Watson. But Eric Watson also has Barry Perkins, Pill Poppin' Perkins back there. He's got T. Hands. He's got a lot of great offensive weapons at his disposal, including Todd Kidd. So you can't just focus in on him. And I think that's a big reason why they've been so successful. Dave Rogers, 67 catches, 1,387 yards, 20.7 yards per catch, and 13 touchdowns is also their big weapon offensively. But they don't just have one offensive wide receiver, as they do not do well on the ground. They struggle running the ball. So we put up 2 wide receivers for the Wildcats. The Wildcats also have been rotating their running backs a lot, so we couldn't really funnel in on one. Troy Jackson is the other monster out there. Both of these wide receivers, Dave Rogers and Troy Jackson, are both 6'4", and they do really well with Pat Hall. Troy Jackson, 69 catches, which was 4th most, 1,552 yards, which is 3rd most, 22.4 yards per catch, which was 6th most, and 19 touchdowns, which is a boatload in 15 games, which was the 3rd most. Then we'll take a look at Travis Stovall, the running back here for the Dragons, the only real running back in this game that we're going to highlight. Travis Stovall, 1,466 yards, 8th most, 21 touchdowns, which was first in the league. He beat Bryce Locker in Week 15, as Bryce Locker did not score a rushing touchdown, and Travis Stovall did. 5.7 yards per carry and 87 broken tackles, which is a lot, which was fifth in the league. Travis Stovall is the real deal, and when they get him going and they focus on Travis Stovall, he really takes over games and is a great closer for this franchise. But they have no problem passing it. They have a really balanced offense, and that's a big reason why they are here. Then we'll take a look at these two defensive players. Middle linebacker Glenn Anderson and left outside linebacker Grant Hale. Glenn Anderson, 83 tackles, which was second most, which is it just godly numbers. We got 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 1 interceptions, and 8 pass deflections and 2 forced fumbles. Then we got Grant Hale, who has 51 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, which was 4th most, and 7 sacks, which was tied for second, and 3 pass deflections. The big matchup in this game, I really feel like, is going to be Grant Hall versus, or Grant Hale versus Pat Hall. And that's going to be the big matchup between these two, as Grant Hale is second in the league for sacks and is right up there for quarterback pressure. Thank you so much if you've made it this far and you've been watching all the games. Really excited about these 4 matchups coming up. We'll have 2 games on Friday and 2 games on Saturday, and I hope you enjoy them. And if you made it this far, please consider subscribing and liking the video. And let me know who you think's going to win Season 9 championship. And if you want to be a part of this league and get yourself one of these bad boys, you can sign up with our Discord, message in the comments, and we'll send you the Discord link. Thank you guys, and good luck to all the teams, and thank you for being a part of this league.